go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is the special council meeting workshop for Monday, City of Los Alamitos, Monday, November 18th. May we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Edgar?
Here.
Councilmember Gross?
Here.
Councilmember Murphy?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Graham Mejia? Here. Mayor Kusamoto?
Here. Okay, up on the agenda, we have item 3A. It's the city option to retain or delegate authority to award ambulance contract. And we have a staff report, and I think we have a guest speaker here.
Yes, Mayor and City Council. Prior to the start of the Orange County Fire Authority ambulance request for proposal process, the authority needs to know if the city wishes to retain or delegate its authority to award the contract. Currently, the City of Los Alamitos delegates authority. The recommendation is to retain contract award authority or delegate contract award authority. The city contracts with OCFA for emergency ambulance services, and in 2004, the City Council updated the municipal code for ambulance services and delegates authority to OCFA to select and enter into a contract for ambulance service in response to emergencies. Currently, OCFA is preparing this RFP to retain, and the city needs to decide whether to retain or delegate the authority for award of contract. As outlined in the letter, it contains liability risks and staff involvement, which are significantly higher should the city decide to retain authority. It is recommended that the city continue to delegate authority to OCFA. Chief Jones will be giving a presentation on the item and will be available for questions. In addition, Jim Gross, our risk manager with SCJPIA, is in attendance. I've had a discussion with him, and he also recommends delegating authority. And this starts the ambulance contract. And the presentation by Chief Jones and Jim Gross, if there is available for any questions on liability. And this is an action item, and the OCFA has requested a response by December 5th. So if I could, Mayor and Council, turn it over to Chief Jones.
Appreciate that. Before we start, I'm just sorry, John. I think a member of the public did want to speak. Dave, this is not something we would typically do, but I know you probably have something to say. And
Oh, he came down.
I apologize. I didn't look at the agenda, but if I could have a minute, I'd appreciate
hang on
it.
a second. So,
If it's on this subject of this meeting.
okay. So it has to be about the subject of the special meeting on ambulance care. So you want to talk about something else that's on the agenda for later, the regular meeting? Is that?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
incapacitated at that time.
Okay, so sorry about that, Dave. So,
Well, I gave you a flyer at least.
Okay.
You can look that over. This is a strategic time, and that's all I can say, and thank you for your service.
okay, thank you. Chief Jones, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you.
Honorable Mayor and council members, as you know, tonight I'll be presenting a small PowerPoint, maybe just a 2 or 3 minute PowerPoint tonight on the process that this ambulance RFP will go through, just to keep you guys aware of what the timeline is and who's involved in that. But I am here tonight to answer any questions you might have relative to this process. As you know, every 5 years we go through the same process where we go out for a request for proposal for ambulance services. Starting in 2004, and then in 2008-9, it came up again, and here we are going to do it again in 2014. So we start the process now for the eventual change in 2014. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have relative to this process.
So you have a PowerPoint that you're going to go through?
I think it was on the agenda for tonight's council.
Oh, I'm sorry, later. Okay, that's
I can
fine.
do it now again, too, if you would like.
Not necessary. We'll see it a bit later. But questions of the council of Chief Jones?
Can I ask, of the cities that are part of the OCFA, do any of them have their own contract with ambulance services, and what's their size compared to ours?
There are cities who have their own contract with ambulance services. San Clemente, Westminster, Buena Park, all have their own contracts for services with ambulance companies. I couldn't answer without digging into it a little bit more what their size is relative to yours.
Okay.
Westminster's probably the most comparative city. They have 3 ambulances that serve that city, so it's slightly larger than you guys, but they do contract the services by themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So I do have some, on the controversy that's been in the media about the the bidders that were coming in. Does this have any bearing on that in terms of the contract that, or the either retain or delegate out? Will that be kind of wrapped up in that?
It does.
Okay.
It would seem to me, from reading the newspapers and stuff, that in the years past, different companies would bid on different EOAs, or exclusive operating areas for ambulances. And it was all dependent, in my personal opinion, based on what they could get back in revenue. So if a city had a large population that was insured, it was a better revenue driver than a city that might have had less insured within that city, because they on average, and I'm probably misspeaking here, collect somewhere 50-60% of their bills due. So some cities were more advantageous to have, and other EOAs were less advantageous to have. I think with government health care coming in, with a new push for privatization of of paramedic services within the one county left, Orange County, that doesn't have private paramedics, I think there's a lot of interested parties in this, and hence the reason why we're going to have a lot more people bidding on different exclusive operating areas, and people who will be less than happy with the choices that are made, which could result in litigation. So some of the questions that are asked is if what is the city's involvement in the RFP process? If the city chooses to retain the authority for the RFP award, the staff should at least commit approximately about at least a whole week in that process, and that's full-time commitment. And that would be down at the Orange County Fire Authority to review these bids, be involved in that process, and weigh in on that. If the authority, or if a city decides to delegate that authority, they still can have a person involved in that, but they don't have to have. They can delegate that whole responsibility to us. So regardless of which option they choose, you can still have a participative in that process. What is the RFP selection process if the city delegates it or chooses to retain it? You guys will still have a vote in that process. What we will do is we'll go through that whole RFP process. We'll get it down. For this exclusive operating area, certain companies will bid on that. We will vet those companies, and we will present to you the companies that did well in that process, which ones we think will serve your city well. And there's a lot of parameters to that whole process, so you'll get a chance to that. I will keep you informed all the way through the process of what's going on with that. If you choose to retain that, then you'll be the one who decides which one of those companies can best serve your city.
So, another question, if I may. So, in terms of, if I kind of look at it just as a commodity, which I know it isn't, but just kind of is it better to, I'll say, like the cities of Westminster, Buena Park, and San Clemente, the ones that buy their own, right? To me, it's a make or buy, and or they made their own in terms of us just buying it from you. Is it, I guess, from a savings or volume discount, economy of scale type of perspective? Does it scale that way?
I don't know. I couldn't answer that question directly, whether it's a better value for your city to buy your own services or get it from us.
Okay.
I think it becomes a lot more involved process if you do it yourself. I see the city of Westminster dealing with a lot of the issues that we deal with for you. So there's a lot more time involvement of the staff. There's a lot more involvement in the billing piece of it. I couldn't tell you whether or not what the value is there, whether they're getting a good return on their investment with that process. I also know that all that responsibility and liability becomes just the city as a whole right now. We insulate you from that if you go through us, and we pick and do that whole piece.
Okay.
So there's a level of anonymity there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
The city.
Dean has a question?
If you retain it, which I personally favor, if you retain it,
If the Orange County Fire Authority?
yes, if
We
the Orange
delegate.
County Fire retains it as they are now, are we expected to okay who you select? Or are we out of that process and you make that decision and we just agree to accept it?
We'll present to you at the end the top two companies that did well, and we'll make a recommendation to you. You guys can go against that recommendation, say, no, we'd rather have another company. Say if CARE and Company X are in the end, and you guys are used to using CARE, and we say, well, Company X seems like it'll do a little bit better job for you, and you guys say, no, we'd really like to stay with CARE, and they're in the top two, then I think we can we'll work with you on that, and I believe you have a part and parcel in that choice.
And that doesn't mean then that we're taking on the liability and responsibility?
No, because we've already vetted those two, and we've presented them to you for the final selection.
I understand. Okay.
I think one of the other questions that you guys should understand, too, is that we highly believe that this is going to be there could be a lot of issues revolving this process, so it's going to take a lot of our staff's time, and there's going to be a lot of stuff on the back end when it doesn't go the way that people think it will go. So I think there's the reason why Cal JPA will weigh in on it. So that's just...
Okay. Troy, did you have a question?
No.
Richard, any questions? Thank you. Okay, so I think with that, Chief Jones, thank you very much. I think, JPIA, I'm sorry, your name again? Did you want to, if you wouldn't mind just coming forward? Appreciate you being here, and can you share your perspective on this?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. The authority has taken a position that it's in your best interest to delegate that authority to the OCFA. I know there's been mention that if you were to deviate from one of these top two and you were retaining the authority, that puts you in a line of fire for litigation over that whole selection process that they put a lot of time and energy into. But then, I think more importantly, if you're awarding the contract, they're your agent, you're directly in the line of fire for the services they provide, and you can avoid all of that by just expanding the services that the OCFA provides to you.
Okay, so if I may, a question. So based on, why is the recommendation, is it based on what the JPIA's experience has been in other communities, other insured?
I wouldn't say that it's because of claim activity, but just in the relationships and what triggers your liability. Our position is strictly from a standpoint of risk management and loss mitigation, and
Okay, great.
no other factors.
Dean has a
That's what's known as risk transfer. So it's happy to transfer the risk to them.
Richard, anything? Oh, well, thank you very much for being here. Appreciate your input.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I guess with that, we're done?
You can get a motion to retain or delegate the authority.
Oh, I see. Okay,
I'll
so,
make a motion to retain the authority to do the action for us.
no,
So that would be
No,
delegate.
delegate.
I'm
contract
sorry,
authority.
delegate.
I'll second.
so we have a motion and a second to delegate the contract award authority to the OCFA. Is there any further discussion on this?
Who was the second?
Troy had the second. Jerry had the motion. Troy did the second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, so it passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Chief Jones.
Sorry about that.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and adjourn, and we will wait till about 5:30ish, I guess. Okay, and meeting adjourned until the regular council meeting.
So-